Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today I'm featuring these amazing pecan flour buns and rolls. As you can tell by the name of the recipe, one of the main ingredients will be pecan flour, which by the way has a nice natural sweetness to it and has less carbs than almond flour. I'm first going to make this recipe, and after I show you how to make these pecan buns and rolls, I will provide a few suggestions on which fillings taste best when making a delicious sandwich. So please do watch all the way to the end. And after watching the video, I would appreciate it if you would take a moment and let me know your thoughts on this recipe or my channel in general, or if you have any questions. The macronutrient ratio for these pecan flour buns is 2.4 to 1, with 15.7 grams of total carbs, 10.2 grams of soluble fiber, 2.8 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in only 2.7 grams of net carbs per bun. As you can see, these buns are very high in both soluble and insoluble fiber. Getting enough fiber is really important to a good, healthy diet, which is important for good intestinal health, motility, and excretion. To make this recipe, the ingredients you will need are pretty basic, at least for those of us on a keto diet or a gluten-free and sugar-free diet. Before starting the recipe, grind your own golden flax seeds to a very fine flour consistency. Don't buy the pre-ground stuff because a lot of the natural oils will be lost. And then just set aside for a moment. Now let's get started with making the dough. In a food processor, add all 8 of your room temperature eggs. It's important that the eggs are at room temperature, and that's because the butter will blend more easily with the room temperature eggs. Now let's get back to the eggs. Just blend for 1 minute until the eggs are pale yellow and a little bit frothy. At this point, pour in the room temperature melted butter and pulse to blend with the eggs. Next, combine the heavy cream and water in a large measuring cup or bowl. Stir and pour this cream mixture into your food processor and pulse to blend. Now it's time to add the dry ingredients. The order does not matter, but one thing I'd like to mention up front is you should blend after you add each ingredient individually. Here I'm adding the pecan flour to the food processor. I actually bought prepared pecan flour, but you could also instead buy your own pecans and then grind them into a flour yourself. Just be careful that you do not make the ground pecans into a paste or a butter. The next ingredient I add is the whole psyllium husk. Now get the golden flax seeds and add it to the food processor. I'm also adding the baking powder, the baking soda, and this is my favorite binding agent, glucomannan, which is also known as konjac root powder. Now pour in the apple cider vinegar, which will help to activate the baking soda and baking powder, and of course pulse several times. Oh my god, I almost forgot to add a couple important ingredients, and they should actually be added before you do the vinegar, but here we go. You need to add coconut flour and the sweetener, which I ground to a fine confectioner powder. Having added them, just blend for 30 seconds to ensure all the ingredients are well combined. And let the dough rest for 5 minutes, in which time you can preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 177 degrees Celsius, or about that. And also line a baking sheet with parchment paper. I found that the easiest way to make my buns all the same size is to use a half-cup scoop and place the half-cup of dough onto your parchment-lined baking sheet. This will ensure that each of the buns are the same size. And when you're positioning the dough, leave plenty of space between each portion because the buns will expand a little bit when they're baking. Also, to make the buns look nicer, if you want to smooth out the surface of the buns, dip your fingers in cold water and gently, putting no pressure on the surface, smooth and shape the buns. Now that the surface is all nice and smooth, here's an optional ingredient that's not necessary, but I think it adds a lot of taste. Just sprinkle 1/4 teaspoon of raw white sesame seeds on top of each of the buns, like this. Now the buns are ready, so take the baking sheets and put them in the middle position of your preheated oven. Then set the timer for 30 minutes. When the oven timer goes off, after the 30 minutes, turn off the oven heat and place an oven mitt or something to hold the door slightly open. Then leave the buns in the oven to cool slowly for about 10 minutes or so. Now it's time to remove the buns from the oven and place them on a cooling rack to finish cooling to room temperature. Although these buns smell amazing, don't be tempted to eat them right now because the inside will still be hot and a bit doughy. It's not recommended that you eat them while they're warm, as the inside will still be a bit moist and you really should let them cool completely before eating. And that's all there is to making these keto pecan buns. As I mentioned before, are high in fiber, are grain-free, gluten-free, and taste absolutely amazing. I think even your non-keto people will enjoy them. There are many ways to use these buns. Easiest thing, of course, is to cut the bun in half, slather on my unsalted butter and a favorite jam, such as strawberry or raspberry. Use them to dip into your favorite stew. If you want to make them into a sandwich, these buns will also go well with ham slices, either from your leftover homemade ham or ham slices you bought from your deli. Another way I like to make sandwiches is to use my egg salad with these buns because the flavor combination really pairs beautifully. In my opinion, this makes a perfect, healthy, and delicious breakfast or lunch. I also really like the taste of the pecan buns with leftover roast chicken and a slice of lettuce and perhaps a tomato. Because of the mild flavor of these pecan buns, you can also use any milder or sweeter cheese such as mozzarella, Gouda, or cream cheese, mascarpone. If you're adding the cream cheese, you can either have it just plain like that or perhaps add a slice of tomato or cucumber. And one more suggestion is, I really like my Japanese samurai hamburgers served with these pecan buns, which by the way is a copycat of the McDonald's Samurai Burger, which we enjoyed in Hiroshima, Japan. Any of these combinations of buns and toppings, or whatever your favorite topping would be, make an amazing lunch for school or work. If you've made it all the way to the end, I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this entire video. I do hope you come back when I post my next video. Until next time, have a happy and healthy day. Cheers!